In this video, we're going to talk about how we can intrude into shapes. So I'm going to start, like I have in the last few lessons, by creating a 5 by 5 by 5 cube. Let me try that again. Rectangle, 0, 0, 5, 5, and extrude it 5 inches. Okay, now that I have my cube, ooh, where is it going? Let me hop to one of these corners here. Okay, now that I have my cube, what I want to do is I want to intrude into this cube. Now, if I go to conceptual, I can see my cube, and if I go to 3D basics, I can see all of my options. Now, let's say I wanted to put a hole that goes all the way through here. The first thing I would do is, like in freehand sketching, I would draw a 2D sketch of the intrusion I want to make, right? So let's say I want to put a hole, I would draw a circle. I just typed in circle. I hover over the face that I want to draw on. Keep in mind as I hover over different faces, it shows blue, showing that I'm about to draw on that face. And I draw the circle. I'm not going to worry about the size for this demonstration. You would type in the size you want. Now, if you look up here at our options, none of them say intrude. We see extrude, but none of them say intrude. The command we're going to use is called Presspull. There's a couple of other ways you can intrude in AutoCAD, but Presspull is the easiest. One thing I want to point out before I demonstrate this is generally in AutoCAD, in other CAD softwares, not in AutoCAD, if you were to do an intrusion, you would use whatever their extrude command is, or something like extrude to cut, and you would just modify it. There would be like a box you check to make it, instead of creating a solid, it would subtract or remove. There's also this subtract command, but it doesn't work quite like intrusions do. So I want to keep it simple for you guys, keep it like we learned. So we learned you draw a sketch and then you project it across to intrude. That's what we're going to do here. We drew a sketch, and then what we're going to do is we're going to select Presspull in order to intrude. Now, unlike extrude, you don't select the object, you select inside a bounded area. So here I'm selecting inside the circle, and if I pull through, it'll create that hole. Now let's say I wanted to cut the top off of this. I would draw like a triangle here. Make sure I'm drawing on the front if that's what I want to cut away. Make sure that it's hovering blue on the front view. Let's say I want to draw a triangle like this. To make sure everything is on that face that you're intending to intrude along. Once I'm done with a triangle, I'll hit escape. Now, I don't need to join these lines together. I don't need to make sure they're one object. I don't need to use polyline in order to press pull, because when you're press pulling, it just needs some bounded area. So if I click in here, in this bounded area, I should be able to intrude. I'm going to undo that for a second. I'm going to press pull. And let's say I don't want to go all the way through. Let's say I only want to go partially through. I could click and go 2 inches, and it would just cut 2 inches deep. This is what we call a blind intrusion. It just goes part of the way through. One thing that Presspull can do, though, is it can actually also extrude. So let's say I have a circle on the top here, and I press pull up. Instead of going into the shape, I go out of the shape. It'll actually create an extrusion. So you want to be careful with this, because Presspull won't just intrude, it can also extrude. Here's where you might run into a problem. I made this hole that goes all the way through, but if I try to press pull again in that space, let's see if it'll let me. I hope it'll let me. Maybe it looks like they fixed this in AutoCAD 20. Okay, so that's not an issue. But just be careful. Keep in mind that Presspull can intrude as well as extrude. So make sure you're not, creating a solid where you're trying to subtract. A solid. So, if generally it'll work the way you expect it to. You draw your sketch, you hit press pull, you select inside the bounded area. It must be a bounded area, and then you pull through as deep as you want to go. Let's say you don't want to go all the way through. You type in, 4 inches. You're supposed to go all the way through, and it'll only go part of the way through. That's kind of neat. It runs into the hole we have going through. One last thing to be aware of before we move on here. You need to have a bounded area of sketch, meaning you can't utilize the corners of the shape, the edges of this solid, to help you. So let's say I'm drawing a triangle here. Notice that I only drew 2 lines. I didn't draw the one up top. And you can actually, if I hover over the shape, you can see that there are only 2 lines. If I try to press pull this, it doesn't treat it as an enclosed space. It just senses that overall shape. You need to include that last line to create a bounded area that is sketched. Once you do that, you should be able to pull it. Oh, looks like I made some mistake here. I'll try drawing that line one more time. I probably didn't have it on the right view. Something is wrong with this triangle, for sure. But the point is, if you don't have a completed bounded object, it won't be very cooperative. I'm just trying drawing it one last time. There we go. Sometimes if you get problems, you just want to erase the sketch and redraw it, and it should fix itself. Okay. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to mention, I already said the last thing, is press pull, unlike extrude, leaves these lines behind that you used to create your intrusion or extrusion. So you want to make sure you get rid of those. So what you want to do to get rid of those really easily, you can go through and select all of them, but I think it's a lot easier to use the command move. So you type in move, hit enter, select your object, hit enter, select the base point, move the shape out of the way, and then select all of these lines and delete them. I think that looks a little bit better without all those unnecessary lines. Okay, so that's it for the Presspull command.